Hey there folks, we just got an extended gameplay look at Gotham Knights, which, if you don't know, is an upcoming co-op action adventure game set in the DC Comics universe. It is being developed by WB Montreal, who also did Batman Arkham Origins, but despite their work in the Batman Arkhamverse, Gotham Knights does not take place in the same continuity, even though Arkham Knight implied Batman's death and Gotham Knights is taking place after Batman's death. They do not have anything to do with each other. If that sounds stupid to you, well, it's because it sort of is. But multiversal issues aside, we've just been given 13 minutes of Gotham Knights gameplay featuring Nightwing and Red Hood, also known as Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, and I just thought I'd jot down some of my thoughts about what we saw. Alright, let's get into it. So one thing that sort of jumped off the page at me right from the off in the very first combat sequence that we see with Nightwing was that the combat doesn't really seem very, I don't know, like snappy, I guess. It seems a bit bogged down, a bit slow at a glance, but maybe they're going for a more methodical approach to the combat, like less enemies than you'd be fighting at once in an Arkham game, but perhaps they're more dangerous and varied or something, which could be cool. Another thing that leads me to think that that is the case with the gameplay approach is that it didn't look like there was any Batman, Shadow of Mordor, press Y, press triangle, quick parry, you know? Although I do see this thin white circle outline around like enemy fists and such when they try to hit you. It also kind of like flares up for a moment. So maybe there's a parry, but it's harder to execute and has to be timed properly or something. And thin circles also appeared around the Owl Gladiator when Red Hood is fighting it later in the video, but the circles for the Owl Gladiator are red, likely indicating that those attacks can't be parried, right? But you know, I guess we'll see. But still, the gameplay did seem rather slow. It honestly looked a little stiff and unresponsive. You know, now we are still 5 months from the game's release, so it's entirely possible that the responsiveness and whatnot gets smoothed over, but that's just what I think about how the game seems to be moving for now, you know, to me anyway. It may look incredible to you, I respect it. But yeah, a lot of while I was watching this, it honestly seemed like the person playing barely even knew how to play. And I've got to assume that's due to a lack of polish that I feel I can like actively see in the game, you know, for now anyway. You know, it doesn't look bad, it just looks a bit unrefined, but again, I assume that'll be buffed out by the release, hopefully, you know, fingers crossed. Another thing you may have noticed is the colorful loot being dropped by defeated enemies. This worries me a little bit, not because I don't like the dopamine shot of getting some juicy loot or whatever, but because it's so easy to fuck up loot-based gameplay. There are two possible problems that immediately pop into my head. The first is the most obvious, and you probably thought of it right off the top of your head. It's the grind. You know, is this gonna be some grind fest filled with tens of hours of tedium just to get my first glimpse at anything actually worthwhile? Please say no. Well, obviously, that's what you're supposed to say, you know, but the truth will be revealed when the game comes out. My second concern is that a lot of loot-based games tend to populate their games with damage sponge enemies that make you feel like taking a shit is a better use of your time. Yes, I'd rather push smelly waste out of my ass than spend another second spamming R2 to shoot the tankiest generic goon known to man. Now, and while I'm doing this, talking about being worried about potential issues, I just thought of a third one. Obviously, if this is a loot-based game, there is going to be side content most likely. Did everyone hear me? I said side content. Side. On the side. Not mandatory. Optional. Side content. Do not make the main content so impossibly insurmountable that I have to do side content in order to grind out enough good gear to do the main quest. At that point, why isn't the side content included in the main story? If it's unrealistic to be able to progress the main story without doing the side content. Like, please, I beg you, okay? Okay. Hopefully, none of those problems are present in this game. So, so many games are guilty of any one, if not every one of those issues. But yeah, that's mostly all I have to say about this game. I am going to buy it, Gotham Knights. I'm going to buy it. I'm a big DC guy, so it's hard to turn me off of this stuff. Although nothing I've seen here would necessarily turn me off of this game, even if it wasn't DC themed, assuming I was interested in the first place, I wouldn't be turned off by anything I've seen thus far. It's not that egregious, really. I mean, honestly, I don't even particularly care for any of the characters in this game. They're not like, these aren't my favorite characters. I don't give a fuck. So there's not a lot tipping my biases, So yeah, it just appears to me that the game needs a little more time in the oven for polishing, general refinement, and they have that time. So I'm sure it will certainly look better when next we see it, likely very close to its October release. The game's development is probably also helped by the fact that they've canceled the last gen versions of this game. Yeah, so alongside this gameplay, WB Montreal also announced that the PS4 and Xbox One versions were canceled. So that probably helps with development, having 2 less versions of the game to make. If I'm being honest, I'm also a little bit happy about it only being on current gen, because at some point we do have to officially plant both our feet in the new thing. I know for people without a PS5 or Xbox Series, this news probably sucks, and I know it's a bitch getting current gen consoles because of the chip shortage and subsequent supply shortage, especially if you're trying to get a PS5. But on the other end, you want to see what the next generation of gaming can do, and you invested in it, but it's always being hampered by having to accommodate the old hardware too. So when does your investment finally pay off, So I get it, is what I'm saying. I understand both sides, but I do hear it's actually pretty easy to get a Series X these days. So that's good if true. Unfortunately, PS5 supply is still nasty. But okay. Yeah. What do you guys think about Gotham Knights? Does it look cool? Does it look shitty? Or is it just chilling in the middle? Are you gonna buy it? Were you gonna buy it but don't have a PS5 or Xbox Series and are now dismayed? There's so many questions. Feel free to answer them. But until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am a normal guy. I like hentai, and I'm gonna spend $70 to pre-order Gotham Knights. Goodbye.